Farther below, Lake Ontario takes in what Lake Erie can send her. Gordon Lightfoot, wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Welcome back to E-Hermes, your electric adventure travel channel. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the bell button to be notified of our upcoming content. Hello, for today's adventure we are shuffling off to Buffalo, and we may even end up at Niagara Falls. We will have to wait and see. The main purpose of the video today, though, is going to be to take another look at the full self-driving subscription that we had a previous video on last week, which I will give you the link to in the descriptions below. I had some thoughts about this in the last week or so, and the way I want to look at it today is, instead of pretending it's full self-driving, which we all know it isn't, no matter what they call it, let's look at it as just very advanced driver assistance system. And I think if we look at it from that respect, it is does a very excellent job. It really does a good job of some things that it can do better than a human being can. It can always be paying attention for a stop signal or a stop sign. It can always be looking in the blind spot. It can do those things that humans just can't constantly and regularly do. Instead of trying to, rely on it to do all the driving, let's just see how it does assisting us. And one of the things in driving it since the last video is the automatic lane change when you force it with the turn signal. That's really nice. That's really nice in traffic. It's really nice out of traffic. I really appreciate that a lot. It checks the blind spot, does everything you need to do without taking your eyes off the road, although it also has its eyes on the road obviously in front of you, and that's the beauty of it. It can look 2, 3, 4, 5 places at one time. So we're going to be on some regular state highways here for a little bit, getting up to Interstate 90, and we'll see how it does. Like, we're coming up on a traffic signal here. The traffic signal is currently green. It has told me it's going to stop in 700 feet. I'm going to acknowledge it. That'll clear that. Now, it's green, so it won't stop, but if it did turn to red, I've known from experience that it will stop even after I've cleared it. So there's some other traffic here. A car turned. There's somebody else trying to pull out in front of me. It's looking at all that, and now we're good to go again. So we will check back with you approaching the next traffic light. We are now approaching another traffic light, but because we are behind some slower moving cars and we're just keeping our distance, we're nowhere near the set speed I have. Well, it is 45, so it went down to 50, but we're not near the set speed. It's not going to make me acknowledge the traffic light when we're in traffic like this. It says it's here and we are stopping for it, but that's because the cars in front of us are stopping. When it turns to green, I do not believe that I will have to recognize it, but I might. Let's see what happens. So there, the light is green. Cars in front of me are going, and I'm just following behind them without regard to the traffic signal, really. All right, we'll try it again when we come. I think there's only one more traffic signal, because I think the other one's a roundabout or square, something like that. So we'll try it at the next signal. All right, we're approaching another traffic signal, and the speed zone reduces here, so the car will slow down to 50. It'll only go 5 over when you're on navigate on autopilot, 5 over the posted speed limit. The light is currently green. Soon it will ask me to acknowledge it. This one might work out as a good example, because I think it will probably turn red before I get to it. So there, it asks me to acknowledge it. I've done so. Maybe it's not going to turn red. Nope. So I acknowledge the signal and we go right through it.
4 miles.
This used to be just a bad intersection. This direction did not have to stop. It was yellow lighted. They've recently changed it to a 4-way stop. So we will see how the car recognizes that and what we have to do to proceed through the intersection when it's safe to do so.
It's not going to recognize it.
So it stopped. I click once. Now that I see the other cars are all stopped, and away we go. The next traffic control device, I believe, is a yield sign at the square here. So I don't know if it's going to treat that as a stop sign and make me acknowledge it to go through it, or if it's just going to assume that I'm yielding to the the people coming from the left, we're going to be going really slow because it's a speed limit of 25 up here to slow it down to 30. Plus there's a car in front of us, so it's kind of going to change things a little bit. It did not acknowledge the yield sign. Now, I looked and there was nobody coming, but that's a little surprising. I would think the safer thing for that to do would be to treat that as a stop sign, or at least like a green traffic light where I have to acknowledge it with the stalk before it would proceed, but it did not. While we are navigating on autopilot, I'm going to have to take a right turn up here to get onto Interstate 90, and because it is a turn and not a ramp, I will have to do that manually. If it were a ramp, it would do it automatically, or if I was already on an interstate going to another interstate on a ramp, it would do that automatically. But if you see there's the two lines here, this is really just regular autopilot. When we get on 90, you'll see that this changes to a solid blue line right in the middle, and that's when it will change lanes, keep up with traffic, do those things. But until then, to make a turn, I have to do that myself.
Now turn right to take the Interstate 90 East ramp.
So it's telling me to turn right, but it won't turn by itself. I've hit the brake there to knock it out of autopilot. We'll get on the ramp here. We'll get going. There's the solid blue line. It's going to change lanes to get onto the interstate from the ramp. It's going to change lanes again because it thinks these cars ahead of me are going too slow, which I'm not sure that's the case, but we're going to crank it up a little bit anyhow, so it probably is the case. So now this is going to be, it's 70 here, so we're going to go 79. So this is where it does very well. It will keep up the traffic, it will stay in my lane, it will change lanes when it wants to change lanes. When the traffic ahead of me slows, it'll even go, because I have it set in the Mad Max setting, it will even change lanes and pass on the right side if there's slow people on the left side. Here's an automatic change to the right, checking the blind spot, seeing that it's good, over it goes, and now we're going to go again. It's going to change lanes again right up here again because this camper ahead of us, I believe, is going quite a bit slower. But there was a car behind me, so it got out of the passing lane because we are keeping right except to pass. Okay, it's turning on the turn signal. It's checking the blind spot. There's a car back there, but he's not in the blind spot. Making the change. And now we will pass at least this first vehicle, probably both of these. And then because there's a car behind me, it will want to go back into the right lane where it belongs if we're not passing. See if it does it between these two vehicles. I kind of hope it doesn't, because it really shouldn't in this relatively short distance, but let's see. No, it senses that that car ahead of me is going slower than we are, so it's going to hang out here in the left lane. Now the car behind me is right behind me, so I believe as soon as we pass this car, it will check the blind spot. Actually, I believe it'll check the blind spot while the car is still in the blind spot. It'll be red on the screen if it does that when it first comes up, but because the guy is right behind me, it really wants to do, I guess, the right thing and get over as soon as it can, so it starts checking even a little prematurely. I think this car is speeding up as I go to pass it too. Which, I don't know why people do that, but it doesn't seem uncommon. Well, now the car behind me is actually getting over. They must be getting off at the next exit. There's another one coming up behind me. He's a little bit back there. He's going to catch up here pretty quick as we pass this car. So let's see now. There's the car that we're passing. Should check the blind spot here. It waited until we were past. Oh, it was red just for a second, so it checked it right when it was. Maybe he did speed up again. It's checking the blind spot again. By the way, it turned. I don't. You can't see my left hand, I know, but it turned the signal on by itself. It turns the signal off by itself. So that's the basics of it. The other thing that I really like about it, and I'm not really having the opportunity to do it here, I will after this car passes me. I really like that if I want to manually change lanes, all I do is turn the turn signal on and it takes over from there. Again, it checks the blind spot, makes sure it's safe, moves over smoothly. And I don't remember if I have to cancel the turn signal or if it does it itself, but I think it does it itself. So here's a car getting ready to pass me. It is passing me slowly. I am not speeding up. I'm set to the constant speed. Now there's a car merging here. It should move over for it, but I'm going to move over manually. So I've turned the turn signal on. Now it sees that car is too close in the left lane ahead of me. It slowed down just a bit, allowed me to get over, and then it does cancel the turn signal itself. Had to move over for this blue Model 3, I do believe. Now see, it started to go over there, saw the car was still too close. Now it's giving it time, and over we move smoothly. I did not do anything to make that happen. We're coming up on slower cars. It's going to try to get over. There's a car coming up behind me, passing me. Will it get over there? It is going to be rather bold and jump right out in front of that car. I like it. I'm going to force it over. Again, all I did is turn the turn signal on. It did everything else after that. Now, hopefully it's going to let this... Yeah, there's a car coming up to pass me. I'm also coming up on a slower vehicle up here. But it's not going to get over until this guy, lady, I should say, gets around me. So I'm going to force it over prematurely again. I turn the turn signal on. It makes the change after checking the blind spot and turns the turn signal off. I actually almost like the manual part of it better than the automatic, especially in a little bit heavier traffic. So the full self-driving did something interesting. I was passing this Kia ahead of us, who again sped up, so I was not really passing him. Maybe he was going a mile an hour slower than me. There were cars right behind me, and it actually slowed down and tucked in behind the Kia, let those cars pass, and then got back out to pass it, I guess under the assumption that we weren't passing it fast enough not to be blocking traffic. So I thought that was interesting and probably better for traffic flow, although maybe not quite as good for us, and I don't know why people speed up when you're passing them. Just don't understand it. Most cars nowadays have cruise control on them anyhow, so I'm not sure why you wouldn't be using it on a highway like this. Here's a good example. I'm going to force the lane change because there's a disabled car there. It was far enough off the road that the vehicle would not have changed lanes by itself, so I intervened, turned the turn signal on, got around the car to give it some space. I turned the turn signal back on to go back into the right lane, and the maneuver is complete. Done manually, but with it doing all the blind spot checking and looking and making sure things are safe. And it looks like we are about to enter into Pennsylvania, here where the road changes, not up there where the sign is. But in any case, welcome to Pennsylvania. An interesting feature is that when it goes to change lanes, when it comes up upon a slower car, even though my hand's on the wheel right up until it's time to do it, if I take my hands off the wheel, it will not make the lane change until my hand is back on the steering wheel. It'll slow down, it'll do everything else except make that lane change. I'm gonna put my hand back on the wheel, over it goes. Alright, we're going to the Cheektowaga, New York supercharger. It is 9.7 miles, well, it's about 10 miles away, 10 minutes. Even though it's 75 degrees out, the battery is still preconditioning. Actually has been for about 20 minutes, I think, huh? So that's a little surprising, as warm as it is, that it needs to precondition and heat the battery. Alright, so we spent the night last night, and we came this morning back to the Cheektowaga supercharger, because it is a 250 kW supercharger, so it goes really, really fast. At the top of the battery, though, it's down to 162 miles an hour, but we did add 127 miles in about 15 minutes. Anyhow, we're going to head up to Niagara Falls now. So we're heading up 290 towards Niagara Falls. We are letting the autopilot make all the turns for us. These symbols here, I believe, means that it'll make that transition by itself. When we come to a real turn, it won't have that symbol like here, where it's a turn through a roundabout, then I have to do that manually. But here, these are automatic turns it'll make for me. So that's kind of nice to know what it thinks it can do.
Take the Interstate 190 North exit on the right toward Niagara Falls.
So we're in the middle lane. We want to get off on the right, according to it. So it's going to change lanes shortly. Upcoming lane change. To get over there, I'm doing nothing except keeping my hand on the steering wheel and, of course, paying attention. So it's taking the exit by itself. Should merge when we get up here. It didn't put me in the far right lane, so I don't have to worry about that lane ending. Our car's coming to my left. Let's see how it does checking for them. Signaling to get over. There's a car coming up. It wouldn't say it pulled out in front of him, but it kind of pulled out in front of him. Yay, construction. Okay, so this says it'll take this last exit, and then after that I will have to take over the steering on the actual turns, although it will continue to navigate on autopilot, staying in the lane and keeping distance from the car in front of me. But these turns with the blue symbol, steering wheel symbol, it makes by itself without any input from me. Signals, checks the blind spot, moves over, does whatever it has to do. After that, I will have to do all those tasks. So we were considering going across the Rainbow Bridge into Canada. We have our passports and we have our vaccine cards, but you also have to have a negative test, and we don't have that. So I guess we'll be staying on the US side of Niagara Falls, which is where the nicer falls are, but the nicer views are from the Canadian side, looking over to the United States side. So a little sad we'll have to miss out on that. Plus we like to go up to Niagara on the Lake, which is on the Canadian side up on Lake Ontario.
In 1 mile, enter the roundabout.
But it is what it is.
First exit.
Alright, we're stopped at this traffic light. I was talking to Mrs. E-Hermes. I was looking for a restaurant we had gone to years ago. I was not paying nearly the attention I should have been paying to the traffic. And I probably would have gone through the red light, but navigate on autopilot saved me. Here we go. Alright, so here we come up on a four-way stop. It will stop by itself. I will look both ways. I will acknowledge the stop, and we will go forward again. Don't even have my hand on the wheel right now, although I am ready at any moment to jump in and take control. And here we come up to another one, right in short order here. So I have not touched a pedal or a wheel or a lever or anything until we come to the stop. I verify that it's clear. I press the stalk down once, and away we go. That part's pretty neat. So here we are down nearly at the bottom, right on the Niagara River. Say hi, Mrs. E-Hermes. Now we have to go back up to the car, which is a lot of steps. Don't know the count, but that's a lot. So the answer to the last question was a little over 400 steps back up that thing. So we're not going to go back down them here again and do that all over. But this is the Niagara River coming from Niagara Falls. Doing as Gordon Lightfoot said in the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, Lake Ontario is taking in what Lake Erie can send her, and this is how she sends her. Here we have the whirlpool. And it's pretty much what the name says. Hi, Mrs. E-Hermes. Then we have the whirlpool cable car. I don't see where the car is. Oh, there it is. It's coming back this way. So we've decided that because we can't go to Canada this trip, we're going to wait until coronavirus is further behind us and we can do all these things, and we're going to make a special Niagara Falls area attraction thing, because at least half the fun stuff is on the Canadian side. You can't be in the area and at least not stick your head over the side and take a look. So here we are. This is the American Falls in the foreground, the Horseshoe Falls in the background. And Mrs. E-Hermes to your left. Say hello, Mrs. E-Hermes. Here comes the water, ready to go over the falls. If you fall in here, you're in deep doo-doo, because right there it is. Okay, here we are looking over the rainbow from the Niagara Falls, the mist coming off the falls, creating the rainbow. And this is Bridal Veil Falls. Again, from the American side, you can't really see it very well, but if you're on the other side looking over here, it's a nice straight column of white water. Looks like a bridal veil, I guess. This is a sculpture of Nikola Tesla, the first Tesla, and for which obviously the Tesla car company is named. Never knew this was here before. We hope that you enjoyed this follow-up look at the full self-driving subscription option and our side trip to Niagara Falls. If you did enjoy it, please hit the like button. Also, please remember to subscribe and hit the bell button to be notified of upcoming content. Thank you.